Was it a month?
Like, let's move to the next person. I'll have to think back. Max.
Well, yeah, so you sort of, and I was sort of kind of trying without much success.
Exactly. But then count that, right?
For 2 years.
So 2 years over there.
I always had this idea, since I was in Silicon Valley over a decade ago, and so then it all started. There was one guy that I met that you know that and I was at a networking function, and I think he sort of got me into the understanding of what I needed to do. And one of the things I needed to do was I needed to quit my job, obviously. Sure. And then I needed to work out the timing around that. And then I had the one customer guy that came on board. So it was sort of trying to find a way for about 2 years. And then it started progressing much more quickly. And then we had one very disappointing day, to be quite honest, about 5 or 6 weeks ago, where I thought we might have an issue, and the absolute next morning, then I unexpectedly received a 2.5 million offer, that we accepted shortly thereafter. So there were things that were very unexpected, where somebody that was just on copy, or that I was saying, do you know anybody? And then suddenly you didn't realize how much your college roommate really had. So, okay,
James, how long was your fundraising?
Oh, it was 2 years from setting out with the first to actually closing on the last.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So now I remember. I think no. Yeah, it was a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just keep this in mind, guys. That's the perspective. It's not that we go out for fundraising and hey, 3 months later it's happening. Okay. I know everyone's thinking about this. I am. The whole magic behind valuations. How did you guys start this topic? I mean, okay, the whole fundraising, how much you need is already, kind of arbitrary. Maybe half. Valuation. Where do you begin? Max Topbush.
It's a simple math of how much can you dilute yourself at each stage. So you have to work backwards from, do you want to be a 50% shareholder at Series A? How much money do you need to get to Series A? And then you work it backwards. So there's some historical figures. If you're raising Series A, you're going to be giving about 20 to 30% of your equity, and then if you're seed, it's going to be another 10 to 15%. And you should try to keep it under 15% total seed. So if you're doing a first seed and you think, oh, it's going to take me all the way to Series A, you're probably lying to yourself, or you're just mistaken. So you need extra money. So you probably should only dilute yourself to 5%. And so you work from there, I would say.
Yeah, we did some good advice. Okay, then we took the system and we broke the system down into components. Then we looked at the experience of the management team. Then we looked at the market and some other factors, pipeline, and then we just broke out. Then we created a one-page prospectus, and we really said this is the valuation. And then they would challenge the valuation, and then it was somebody that could help us out in some way, then I would discount the valuation. I'll say, if you buy in at this, and then I'll give you free stock. That was really at the very early seed stage. So that seemed to work okay. Some people would scratch their heads, but it did get us the money.
Go for it.
Yeah. Not everybody will agree with your valuation, and if everybody agrees with your valuation, then you have the wrong valuation. Yeah, because you're too low. Yeah. If everybody wants to buy in, that means you're too low. Yeah. So you got to get some rejection, and when you get to the professional rounds, A, B, blah blah blah, then there are advisors who can tell you what are the ratios that the industry is comfortable with. So don't go in pitching to a Series A investor, not knowing those ratios, because you're going to be challenged. So just find a friend and a mentor.
That was something I didn't know at all. And then you get, oh, you gotta look at the comps. Oh, what are the comps? What are you talking about? I just don't. So then now we get into that arena, and you look at, you're not the only one, you're not the only company. What about legacy companies? And then it becomes a little bit more of a science. But the closer I get to it, the more subjective I think the whole process is, and driven by subjective market factors as well. But it is what it is. But it is possible. So I wish, from that perspective, that I had started earlier.
James, how did you approach?
No, it was kind of made up. It wasn't terribly scientific, and in fact, the more scientific I tried to dive down, the worse it got and the more complex, so I left it all alone. I think I got confidence from a friend who's in a small corporate finance boutique. He said, "This is a big ballpark, don't lose more than 20%, 25%, you'll be okay. Raise this, expect to lose 20 in the next round. Just go with roughly where you think you want to be at the end of that round, and just don't get too head up about it," because I think it goes back again to these investor motivations. If they're going for absolute return on this, they're going to look at models in real estate investment where it is so much more transparent and they can kind of predict and model around it. But they're going for you because they look you in the eye and they think that you're going to actually stay the course. You're going to be prepared to go for 2 years maybe and still be fundraising. And they also look at the idea and they think that this really interests me, and I don't think anyone's really tackled this problem before. And I think you just maybe get an anchor investor who comes on and says, "This is reasonable for me," and that just gives you confidence to go to the next person and say, "This is very reasonable for me, and this motivates me to go to the next leg, and we have good buy-in at this level." And it is a step-by-step conversation, but I would just say don't spend hours on spreadsheets and trying to model it from an equity perspective, because it's going to be unrealistic. It's a real suck and see process for me.
But the Excel sheets, not hours, but to be able to do it half a day, once a year, or at the beginning of the process, because if you went to business school and you took entrepreneurship classes or something like that, and you wrote a business plan and it all felt very ridiculous, it's the same feeling you have at the beginning of the company. It's ridiculous, it's all paper. But if you do it where you actually do your financial projections for a year, 12, 18 months, 2 years, you're going to find out things, and it's going to add a layer to your presentation to the investors, which nothing can replace it. So it's painful, but just do it for a few hours. Just don't don't fall in love with the Excel sheet, right?
Yeah. And expect to be revising it the whole time.
Yeah.
Because it is the perspective it gives you. It focuses you on, when I need to articulate myself to this level at a certain point of time, I need to have gone through so many levels of thinking it through. And I think that's just an ongoing process. So of course you're doing that for your own sake. I'd just be realistic in terms of how much you publish to people and how much you're kind of suggesting this is very much going to happen and what it's based on. Because I think people will want to take a wide degree of, let's say, circumspection around that and just feel that you're mostly on top of exactly where this is going to be. Maybe not 2 or 3 years out, but what will happen in the next 6 months? I think that's important to people, that you can probably put some numbers down on that.
Yeah, and I think that's really key. So you've got to take the hard work to set aside a weekend, or 2 or 3, or maybe 4 weekends, and put all this down so that you are completely confident about it. So I used liveplan.com, and then it ended up being 60 pages, complementing as the business plan, complementing the PowerPoint deck. And a lot of things have changed, but then you put that 60 pages in front of, a couple of powerful people, and they're like, "Well, you really thought this through?" And you say, "Yeah, sure I have." And then you just keep pushing that level of granularity so that you can absolutely answer any question that comes your way. That's, I think, is important. And it's hard. Most people don't do that.
It's like running a marathon. It's so boring. But, that's how you get to the finish line.
You want to say something?
Yeah, this is, I think, the later you're getting in stages and more towards Series A, then the more you need to be really, really on top of this. And I'm just learning that now, and I'm probably transitioning from one to the next and thinking the degree of granularity that it's going to really require. I think that's
at this point, I can't do it myself anymore. So what we did is the marketing guy that we got has just done such a great job. So you really start stepping away from detail of the website, right? So I just totally gave it that. And then the banker guy that I got just helped so much, and I think that's really been key. So but then it comes down to something else, which is then finding the talent. And people say, "Oh, you can make mistakes and you can fail." you need to get only A players, right? And if you even get one C player, it's distracting everybody, and it's so important. But if you get the A's, then you're successful. So it's just so important. And then
You got some C's?
what today or yesterday? but I'm worried about that, and I want to keep that on the A track. And so how do you do that? How do you raise all the money and you get customers, and then you spend the time to recruit only fantastic people? So I kind of turn it around and I say, if you really want to work for us, then you have to make your pitch to me, right? So if I can do this 60-page thing and I can spend years pitching this company, then why can't you at least give me a 1 or 2 pager on what you're going to do for us? So that's kind of become part of my interview technique, and I don't know, I usually do that. And sometimes people, you just never hear from them again. I guess they think I'm crazy or something. And for the ones that I think are A's in the company, they did that, right? And they came back with something really impressive that they presented to me. So I think I may just make that part of our practice and just be really disciplined about it, actually. So.
Right, now I guess as far as meeting investors, I know you guys reached out to friends and family. What do you recommend outside of that, I guess, to people in Hong Kong? I guess because friends and family are there to give you money. Are they there very much to give you much advice about the fundraising process?
No. You probably have some friends who have good advice. So yeah, if they're smart enough to be able to accumulate a little bit of wealth, then maybe they can be good advice as well. So my first investor, who works for PwC Consulting, and I just asked him to to spend a couple of hours on the weekend to interview some people for me. I wanted to have a second opinion, so I think that's valuable. Friendly advice.
Are there spaces in Hong Kong, like people always talk about, co-work spaces, events, incubators, VCs, other names in Hong Kong, etc., that you hear? What are some things you would recommend? Did you guys do any of that, or was it just friends and family first?
No, I didn't do any of that. I think I kindly got one introduction through you.
Yeah.
But again, that's an extension of networking and being on it every single day and thinking in terms of, does anyone know someone who might know someone? You just never know where stuff really happens. But I didn't use any formal routes, really. I just went for people I knew well, who knew enough about the new things that I was really trying to start. And yeah, there wasn't too much rudiment to it. But I think if you're tapping into all of the startup ecosystem here, if you're going to Cyberport, if you're going to the Science and Technology Park up in New Territories, and you may be into some of the other accelerators or incubators are doing here, then that will teach you things that you just take step by step as well, and then maybe introductions to people, and then secondary introductions off that. I think real patterns other than just being reasonable and just keeping at it. That's best I can really.
So it is about the networking. That's what you're emphasizing.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, you've got to. I think all the written collaterals are important, and they show that you put that thought and you're serious about articulating yourself that way. But for me especially, it's not about putting forward materials and collaterals. It's about me actually talking my story to people who I want to enthuse about it. And I think that's what people want to see. And you can only do that through networking and putting yourself out there and coming to events like this and anything which is partly to do with it, joining maybe business associations, the AmJams, the British Commerce, whichever. I think there you'll learn a lot about every conversation I've had. I think this way it has taught me something, and I'm always grateful for every conversation. You just never know where it's going to go.
Max Openport?
Yeah, I think the networking was really key once I got to Hong Kong, and I think Singapore is more developed in some ways. I like Hong Kong as a city much more, to be honest. But
when you say it's more developed in some ways, what do you mean in terms of the funding ecosystem?
Yeah, there's just just VCs everywhere, incubators everywhere. I think probably net, it's probably easier to get funded in Singapore today. For me, Hong Kong is better, not just because this is more of my home, being PR and everything, being here for a long time. It gets us into China in ways that you can't really from Singapore. And I think there haven't been any real challenges with Hong Kong as a location. But I think it is Singapore's got a little bit more going on, but I see it coming to in Hong Kong, and it's really been a big help to us. I mean, it's connected me with great people, yeah, I mean, the lead investor, maybe they're more hedge or private equity or whatever, but yeah, I mean, there's money here to get, yeah.
Max?
So I was meeting with Cyberport 2 days ago. It's the end of my 2-year, this is the incubation program where you get 300 to 500K Hong Kong. It's the end of my program, and the guys were helping me. They said, you can claim all of this, try to use as much as you can next 3 months. So they're really helpful with the spending part. Then I joined Blueprint, and they introduced me to Seed Camp, which is an accelerator in London, where I pitched in front of a room with 3 times the amount of people, and everybody was a VC. So I was very scared. But in the end, that's what got us over the edge to close our seed round. So you never know where things lead you. I mean, the first person to introduce me to Blueprint was just a friend, and I went there, go to London, and finally I got the money from another part of the world. So yeah, hustle.
Hustle. I love that word.
Hustle.
So I'm going to join you standing up. So,
Yeah.
My last question before I open up to the audience is, you mentioned lead investor. What is a lead investor? Why do we need one?
Yeah, this has been frustrating to me. People say, oh, great, fantastic concept, really good. Yeah, I'm good for 50. Just let me know when you have your lead. Or I will lead for these terms. So I think there was one big name that we got very early who effectively was a lead for us. And that made a lot of people get off the fence.
What does a lead do? A lead investor?
A lead sets the terms, basically. It's somebody that's known, somebody who's people would recognize, hopefully, to some extent, but so they set the terms for the round, and then other people start following. And then it's this herd mentality, which I think also happens with customers and with talent recruitment.
Excellent. Max, was that pretty much the same with you?
A herd mentality is everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess.
And no lead. I was the lead so far, but I suspect for Series A there will be a lead because there has to be one, because then you have ordinary shares and you have preferred shares, and the preferred shares would have the terms dictated by the lead, and if there's no lead, then you're the lead, and that's not a preferred share.
Okay.
So.
James, did you pursue the lead investor route?
No, I didn't. I think I did if I look back now, I probably did, but I didn't actually at the time know to call it that. I really didn't. I was just looking for investors, and if they came on. Certainly when I was closing, and I was able to say to someone, I just need a top up. It felt a lot better to be able to say that, and I know I said it with absolute confidence, and it was probably going to happen. But you get to that inflection point of raising where you are just beyond a certain amount, and you think, we're on the home run here. And it's a very different feeling to when you're starting off and everything is to go. So it's, yeah, I would think you've got that figure in mind that you're trying to go for. Just bear in mind that there'll be a certain inflection point you reach within that, which is where you actually feel, we're on a roll here, and your conversation, your tone of voice to people is just much more different to when you're starting off.
Excellent. So guys, if some of these terms sound a little foreign, you can clearly Google online